Well, the corporations, and I've formed corporations and all those things, and I've run hospitals and businesses, and a corporation's a piece of paper that you draw up and then you tell the lawyer to put a stamp on it. Corporation doesn't have any lifeblood. It has no integrity. It has no future generation to worry about. It has no children. It has none of the attributes of a person. What's happened with the ruling that allows the corporation to contribute to political campaigns is it's made our politicians unable or unwilling to carry out the kinds of controls and legislation that's necessary. Defense contractors are huge contributors to political campaigns. If we decide that instead of spending a great majority of our income on the military, we decide that maybe we could spend 20% less, people in Congress are going to get letters from the contractors who benefit saying, hey, this is going to cost jobs and this is going to cost you your next election. When I called the Democratic state committee and said, hey, I'm running for the federal office of senator, they said, number one, Dr. Ruben, who are you? And they didn't really care who I was. They said, do you have $10 million? I said, no, I don't have $10 million. I'm going to go out and talk to people and get votes. And they just kind of smirked. It's estimated that the presidential candidates are going to spend $1 billion. It takes money in our current system to win an election. And that's sad. It should not be that way. It should take votes. There's a movement on here and there in the country to have nonpartisan primaries, which means that everyone would run in a primary together from both parties, from independent, and then the two winners with the highest votes would run in the final election. An independent person has never been elected in Arizona to almost anything, certainly not a federal office. In order to get on the ballot for Senate, I had to get 5,000 signatures. I got many more because there has to be a cushion. An independent has to get 28,000 signatures. There are many obstacles set up by our party system to keep their control. The parties run on money. We changed that, number one, by a petition going around now that needs 5 million signatures to get the current action of the Supreme Court that makes corporations, people that can contribute unlimited amounts, not able to do that. We are petitioning to have on the ballot for the voters to vote about this. And if you see even 5 million signatures, this is probably the most important thing we can do as voters, because not only can the corporations contribute, but they can contribute to a nonprofit corporation, kind of 504, that then does not have to disclose where the money came from. So there's no transparency. We have to have transparency. We have to have voters contribute, whether it's $100 or $5, and listen to candidates and make up their minds. That's not happening. The petitions for Senate, and I believe, have to be handwritten, original copy, on the correct form. If the margin of the form is 1/8 of an inch off, it can be challenged by the other side and thrown out. So it has to be hand carried. It's quite an undertaking, but for Congress, I believe that there can be e-signatures now. Congress is something I learned. Congress is your representatives. It's different from Senate. Senate has a lot of rules which someone might call more traditional or stodgy. But for Congress, I believe they can do e-signatures. I'm not positive about that. They have to have less signatures than for the Senate, which is a statewide. Congress is with districts. But being able to do this, we have now 9,000 signatures. We had to develop a team. We had to train a team, people that got interested. These people now are saying, now what do we do? Now we have our signatures. We want to continue to campaign. Well, the people that are working for me are really people that need to be paid. They don't have other jobs. I've had a lot of volunteers do this, but you really need people to do it full time. So now we're in the process of asking donors to contribute. We haven't asked for any money up to this point. We spent money helping petitioners. We spent money on campaign literature. We spent money on travel. But now I feel it's legitimate, since we're on the ballot, to get contributions. And with those contributions, what I'm going to do is I want to hire 30 or 40 of these people to be tromping the state, continuing to get signatures, because that's a good way to interact with voters. We don't need them to be on the ballot. We're not going to be on the ballot, but it's a good way to inform people. It's got to be very grassroots. We don't have, nor are we going to try to have in the primary, money for television. So we have to get the word out. That's one of the ways we'll do that. The economy, what I've seen is have studied these issues, and they're layered. What I do with an individual as a psychiatrist, what I do with a family, a couple, a family, what I do with a group, what I do with the country, the principles are kind of the same. The economy is the big issue for everyone. It should be. We can't have health care. We can't have our children have education without the economy. What's happening, what my take on it and what I've been reading about and understanding is that in a capitalistic free market society, every once in a while, the money kind of gravitates to one side, about every 50 years. It happened right before the Depression in 1929, and the demographics of money right now are the same. The economy's a mess. It depends a lot on what we've talked about the military spending. We need to reduce that. We need to spend on infrastructure. I was in Nogales, Arizona. A large part of their economy is produce that comes over the border. Their highways are a mess. The other thing, I was at the Chamber of Commerce meeting, and there were a bunch of people that ran retail outlets. They couldn't find people to work. People didn't want to work. So another problem is we need to look at incentives. People that are unemployed and on unemployment benefits after a certain length of time must be on job training. I'm a believer, I'm a fiscal conservative, really at the bottom of all this. I believe you can't pull somebody up or give them a hand unless they're pulling themselves. I believe in that. I believe that people on benefits, if they're using drugs and come up with positive screens, don't get benefits, or they get treatment. So the economy partly depends on this. But when I see middle-class people who are working and don't have health insurance and one of my cousins can't come to her cousin's wedding. She doesn't have $75 extra, and she works full-time at the university. We've got to do taxation where the money is, which we've done before. The wealthy are now taxed at the lowest rate in 50 years. We've got to tax capital gains. We've got to tax financial transactions. The financial world has become a house of cards that could have collapsed, and maybe should have collapsed, when the president did the stimulus. But he decided, because many people advised him, don't let it collapse. One of his main advisors said, well, now we've shored up the system, but we're driving the same car without brakes, faster, down the same curvy road. It's a recipe for disaster.